Well, good evening, everyone. We were just given a couple of extra minutes because parking out there is at a premium. It is a beautiful evening and there is a lot going on in our district. So thank you for making time for this meeting. I'm Dr. Greta Kump, Superintendent of Tipp City Schools, and we're just very happy to have you. This is the fourth in a series of meetings with community engagement regarding our facilities. So this evening I want to just provide first the overview of what will kind of be progressing through this evening. We're going to begin with some recent questions that have been brought up with our community and do our very best to try to address those. We're going to move on then to just really a fuller understanding and awareness about how OFCC and the ELP, the Expedited Local Partnership Program, how that works with the state funding. And then we'll move into the additions and renovations and overview of that. Mr. Gary Pfister, our Director of Services, will be providing that portion of the presentation. And then we'll move into some financial components that our Treasurer, Dave Stevens, will be addressing, and that will be a comparative cost analysis as well as the bond issue and affordability comparison. And then I'll step back in and just do a little bit of a wrap up with just responding back in March of 2016, we had a bond issue on the ballot and that did go down. And just looking at what we gathered from that, from what our community and voters were saying, and how we've addressed that in this particular issue this time. So I'll pass it off and begin with Mr. Pfister.
Okay, my intention is not to use a microphone, so if you can't hear me as I'm speaking, raise your hand and I'll try to speak louder. I have the issue of when I use it, I turn my head and I don't move the mic with it. So I'm usually better off not using it. Okay, so as Dr. Kump said, we've had 4 of these engagements since January. We actually started having our engagement sessions a year ago, January. So I think we've had, this might be number 7 altogether. Just trying to provide information on our facilities, what we did with renovations this past summer. We talked last spring about what was going to need to happen with our 2 older buildings. And so our series of 4 that we have gone through so far this year are geared towards what can we do with Broadway and Nevin Coppic as they are our 2 older buildings. This 4th session was always designed to be about trying to answer questions, clear up any misconceptions that might be out there, some miscommunications maybe on our part as well. And so the first 15 or so slides, we're going to try to address the issues that we're hearing as best as possible and try to clear up any misunderstandings. I got to say from the get-go, we have tried to be as transparent as possible on this. We try to put as much information out on that website. We try to share as much information as we possibly can. One thing we have found that sometimes transparency, put the documents out there without the context that goes behind it, is sometimes a little bit not easy to understand. So this hopefully will try to clear up some of those things. The second thing I want to say is that nobody amongst us in the administrative staff has ever tried to purposely mislead anybody on this project. We have tried to be upfront and as honest as possible as we've gone through this, and we're going to continue with that. We think that only benefits us as a community to do that. We also understand that we may have missed some things as we've gone through this. None of us that are in these positions do presentations like this on a full-time basis. We're not marketers, we're not public relations people. We have regular jobs, full-time jobs within this district, whether it's treasurer, superintendent, food service, maintenance, transportation. We all have other responsibilities. So we're doing our best to try to get out as much information as possible. And if there's something we have missed along the way, we will own it. We will definitely own it, and we appreciate the feedback to help us own this. So let's just jump in, and hopefully the explanations we give you tonight clear up some of those misconceptions, and if not, we'll continue to do our best to do that. Okay, first question. What is the OFCC Master Facilities Plan? So, to understand this, the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission requires a full pre-K through 12 facilities master plan that they approve, and I say they, OFCC approves, for us to receive state co-funding. So we had to show them a plan from pre-kindergarten all the way to 12th grade of what our district facilities plan could look like. Second bullet point's important here. There is no timeline to implement the entire facilities master plan. We've been over this many times with the OFCC and our master planner. There is no timeline to implement the full plan. It is a long-term plan. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 30 years. It might be to the point that we get to a point in our facilities and we realize, hey, we don't like this plan, let's go in and change it. The thing is that we had to provide them a full pre-K through 12 master plan. Now, this plan must align with state minimum requirements for use. So the state has their standards, which are part of the Ohio School Design Manual, also known as OSDM, that our plan must meet. One example of that is classrooms must be filled to 25% capacity every period of the day. Okay. Tipp City.
Excuse me, not 25.
I'm sorry, 25 students per classroom. Thank you, Graham. I misspoke. 25 students per classroom every period of the day. That's the OSDM standards, that's the OFCC standards. Tipp City for years has not had that standard. Tipp City has always valued a smaller class size for our children. The community has passed levies along the way to ensure that the class sizes, especially at the primary K1, 2, 3 level, aren't at that 25 students per classroom. That's something that this district has valued since way before I ever moved here. I've lived in the community 22 years. It's one of the reasons we moved to this community 22 years ago was for the education. So, keep that in mind. OFCC requires 25 students per classroom. That is not something that Tipp City values. This plan also may be updated and resubmitted with adjustments as needs change. Sometimes those needs are on our end. Sometimes those needs are on the OFCC end. If they come back in and they do another enrollment study after we get a building built and they see that our enrollment has grown more than what they projected, they're going to update that plan. And vice versa. If they come in and see that our enrollment hasn't grown as much as what the projections show, that plan gets updated. So it's a two-way street with them, and it is a partnership with them. So our OFCC approved pre-K-12 master facilities plan includes a pre-K-6 facility and a 7-12 facility. And we'll talk about these as we go through. So, the OFCC Master Facilities Plan states that it's pre-K-6 that our elementary students would be in, but you keep hearing us say a pre-K-5. Okay? I understand that's confusing. It's confusing for us on our end as well, and it's confusing on your end hearing that. So why the difference? So, top title there, OFCC Master Facilities Plan Pre-K-6 versus the current Pre-K-5 Proposed Bond Levy that we have been trying to provide information on. For our plan to meet our Master Facilities Plan, the addition and renovation of LT Ball must be able to service Pre-K through 6 students according to the state minimums. 25 students per classroom, the amount of square footage per student, to receive OFCC co-funding. That is a given. Whatever we end up with here has to be able to service pre-K through 6. So, what are these requirements? Square footage requirements. OFCC requires that for our pre-K-6 population in this district, that we need 155,000 square feet of facility space. The completed facility, when we're done, which takes this 67,000 square feet, it takes the 94,000 square feet in the addition, the completed facility will have 161,000 square feet. So by square footage comparisons, we meet the square footage requirement. Number of classrooms. OFCC is going to require us to submit a Program of Requirements document, also called a POR, that shows that we have 57 classrooms that could service pre-K through 6 students. The completed facility, when we are done, both the addition and this space, will have 65 classrooms. So, our current plan meets those required minimums that the state requires us to have if we want to service pre-K through 6 in this building and to get the state's co-funding. The bottom point there is the most important. Once this building is completed, once we're finished with the renovations, once we're finished with an addition, it is up to the board's decision of what students get placed in these buildings. The state will never come in, excuse me, I get dry mouth, sorry. The state will not come in and say, hey, you built that for pre-K-6, I want to see the 6 grades in there. They're not going to do that. We have to show them that they would fit in there if we chose to move them in here. And we can do that by showing them the square footage requirements, and we can show them the classroom requirements are being met. A couple examples to try to help understand this a little bit. Local district, Trotwood, they had a significant amount of co-funding from OFCC, built a significant number of buildings. There's at least one of those buildings never opened. They didn't have the funds to operate it, so they never opened it. The state did not come back and say, give us our money back. Another example, in Springfield, one of their middle schools that was co-funded is not serving middle school students. It's got pre-K students in it, and it has the board office in it. The state did not come back to them and say, hey, give us our money back. Those districts were able to show that those buildings would house the students that they were designed to serve. Those districts, by a local control, chose to use those buildings in a different fashion. Now, why would we say we're doing a pre-K-5 bond issue when it's a pre-K-6 master plan? Why didn't we just say this is a pre-K-6 building we're building? Because the confusion would have been there as well. We would have been hearing, hey, you're saying you're building a pre-K-6 building, but now you're only putting 5th grade in there. So why the difference? So we kind of had to look at that closely, try to figure out the best way to message this, knowing it is a confusing factor. But also knowing we have worked closely with OFCC along the way, talking with them, trying to get their understanding, being as open and transparent with them as we are with our community, to make sure what we are doing is acceptable in their eyes. Another thing to keep in mind, whether or not we were getting co-funded for a pre-K-6 building, or we went to OFCC and said we want to get funded for a pre-K-5 building, the size of the building we would be building is what we are building, what we want to build if this bond issue passes. The size would be no different. The difference is that we can get the co-funding by showing that pre-K-6 can fit in this building, and then via Tipp city values, we can fill the building the way we want to fill it. We can fill it with our 20 kindergarten students in a classroom. We can go 22, 23 in 4th and 5th grade. But we wouldn't be getting the co-funding from the state that we are now. Same thing with the 712. Why is it a 712 building as a second part of our facilities master plan? Well, if you've been part of our series since last year or watched some of them online, the state has already told us we're not co-funding you for 7th and 8th graders. Not going to happen. We found this out back in 16 or May of 15 when Dr. Cronauer was still on site and we were looking to build a pre-K-8. They came to us the week before the school board was going to approve a master plan and said, whoa, wait a minute. We looked at your high school. Your high school is too large to service 9th through 12th graders. I said, okay. We built that with local funds. We didn't take a nickel from you. Why should that matter to you? They didn't care. Their formula says the amount of square footage we have in the high school, you can put your 7th and 8th graders in there. And we're not giving you any money for them. So that has been a given with them since May of 2015. Not only that, I think it's 34 6th graders as well. They won't co-fund because they believe that number of students should be in that high school. I think the number is 1,250 some students they say should be in that high school compared to what their formula says. So our pre-K 6 and our 712 master plan is built along that logic as well. 712, okay, you're not going to co-fund us anything for that. We know there's no help to build a building. You're saying they can fit in that building. We know we don't have to ever do our full plan. We're going to say 712 is at the high school. We checked off a box with OFCC and it met their requirements. Let's keep going. I got some more stuff here. And this will all tie back together as well. So we've heard this recently. So why did you put all that money into the middle school if all you're going to do is bring it down? We said last spring, as we were looking at the various options for the middle school, we said last spring, middle school had a lot of life left in it. The bones are good, it is a good constructed building, has a lot of nice features in it. It just needs some updating. We feel if we put the funds into it, that building can last for many decades. So, one of the questions, as I just said, are out there is, why would you put the money into the middle school if you're going to tear it down? The middle school is not coming down. That's what allows us to get a pre-K 6 funding, put our K-5 kids, pre-K 5 kids into this building, and keep our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders over in that building. We put AC in that building, we put new electric in that building, we did roof work in that building, we put new windows, we put new doors, we put a new master clock, we put a new PA system, we're putting new classroom doors on. I think that's most of it. But it's close to $5 million. We put into that building with the full function reasoning of that's a long-term saver. We've heard from our community many, many times, don't get rid of all of our buildings. And we're trying to honor that message. We're trying to be fiscally responsible in preserving the buildings that should be preserved in this district. That building has a lot of life in it. We did some abatement work as well, getting some asbestos out of that building this summer. We redid the gym floor. That is the original gym floor in that building, 1964. Goes the wrong direction because when that building was built, they played a different direction. I'm not sure what year they changed the direction they play, but that is the original gym floor. You walk on that gym floor today, you'd never notice it's original. Bottom bullet point. We might not say this enough, because sometimes we think it's old news, and as I heard last night loud and clear from Mrs. Dunaway, this isn't old news. This is only 9 months old. Investments were made using current permanent improvement funds and we did not come to you and ask you for another nickel for that. We made some adjustments in our expenditures. We move some items out of permanent improvement that we typically have paid for, and we move those to the general fund so that we could put close to $5 million into these two buildings to extend the life of them without asking any more money from all of us who pay taxes here. We're trying to be fiscally responsible as much as possible. So, to answer that question, middle school is not coming down, not in my lifetime, and I hope to live a long time. Sometimes I don't think I'm going to, but I hope to outlive that building, or I hope that building outlives me, easily. So, going back to the pre-K 6, 7, 12 versus K5, what pre-K 5 that we're doing, we can do that plan. We can show the state, yes, pre-K 6 can fit in here. Pre-K 6 can fit in here, but we don't need to put them in here. We've got a building that we just put money into that our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are going to be in for a long time. And at the same time, we are able to capture extra square footage and get co-funded for that square footage to help reduce the tax burden on our community. We are trying to get the best bang for our buck in this process and try to not put such a burden on the community. I'm a taxpayer here too. I understand the feeling of those taxes going up. And I don't want to just have to keep paying higher taxes for frivolous things. What we are trying to do is not frivolous. I think it is a well thought out, well-intentioned plan to not overburden the taxpayers, but yet knowing full well there's something that has to happen with our younger grades classrooms. Okay, so sometimes I see PK5 in reference to the addition renovation. Other times it's called a PK6 or just a K5. Lots of confusion there. And sometimes as we're talking, sometimes we just call it a K5, sometimes we call it a pre-K5. Master plan says it's PK6, confusion wrapped around it. So let's try to clarify. So pre-K6 versus pre-K5 versus K5. Pre-K6. Those are the grade levels that OFCC requires this facility to service at state minimum standards. State minimum standards, again, are 25 students per classroom, minimum. So if we have 185 kids in a class, there's going to be seven sections of that grade level, and then those other 10 kids are going to be in those 7 sections. So you're looking at 26 to 27 kids in a classroom at state minimum standards. Pre-K5. Pre-K5 are the grade levels that are served upon completion of the addition and renovations to LT Ball after successful passage of the bond issue using Tipp city values. As I said before, this community values smaller classroom sizes for our younger children. We don't want 25 kids in a kindergarten classroom. We know educationally that's not good for a child. And this district has always valued that. So we don't want that. So Tipp city values is what is driving what we are trying to accomplish here. When you see it mentioned as K5, again, sometimes that's just a slip of a tongue. We forgot to put the P in front of it. It's still a pre-K5. But it also means K5 are the grade levels whose classrooms will be in the addition that are going to be constructed. And we'll show that here in a little bit as well, so you can see that. Inside current LT Ball, the renovated spaces, our pre-K classrooms will be located, our related arts classrooms will be located, and our multiple handicap classrooms will be located. So we need to do a better job as a district, as administrative staff, as BOE, of saying pre-K through 5. It's just clear, it's a little bit more understandable, and so we will try to get better at doing that. Okay, why are the trees at high school on Don Davis Way being cleared? So, several years ago we purchased that property. We purchased that property knowing we wanted to protect our borders. We have practice fields that went right up to the back of that property, and we didn't want whether it be Casey's General Store, whether it be a truck stop, whether it be a restaurant. We didn't want that built on the back end of our practice fields. We thought it was a wise investment at that time to purchase that property, so we did. As we got into this planning phase, and as you'll see the diagrams as we go through this, we knew we had to find a place for our current bus garage and for our current tennis courts. So that property up at Don Davis Way provides a great place, great location for our bus garage and our bus storage. Currently it sits out here, it's about 1.5 acres large. The new site we're projecting about 3 acres, 3.5 acres for it to fit. And the question is, well, you haven't passed the bond issue. Why are you bringing it down now? Answer to that is, when we purchased that property, I worked with a couple of our contractors and I said, hey, what do you think that's going to cost to clear that site? It's about 3.5 acres worth of woods. They're saying probably 6 figures. I said, okay, thanks. I walked away, knowing we don't need it cleared at this point in time. I thought that was too much money. Let's just move on. This summer, one of our contractors came to my maintenance director and said, hey, I purchased some equipment that can clear brush. Would you like a quote on what that would cost? Yeah, sure. You know, understand we don't plan on doing anything with it, but give us a quote. Quote came back at about $27,000. Perked our ears up a little bit, said, oh, okay. $27,000, that's a lot better than 6 figures. Let's check around and see what other prices we can get on this. So we got 3 more quotes. 2 of them came out between $35,000 and $50,000. The other quote came in at $12,300. At that point, it was kind of a partnership quote with Bruns Construction. They said, if we can do that during the winter, we'll help you out by giving you a price like that. We had the money in our maintenance budget. I worked with Mr. Stevens, made sure the money was in that budget, and we said, let's do it. We knew it was going to have to be cleared eventually because we know we have to get a building built. Whether it passes now in May, November next year, we have to get a building built. We know we need a place for our buses. If we can clear it now, it's less dollars that have to go on the bond issue. So when we got a price like that, it just made too much sense to say, well, I'm confused. It would have been foolish to say no at that kind of a price. In addition, as we found out as those trees started coming down, we heard from some of our bus drivers, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't tell you how much this helps us as we're coming out of Success Circle. They're trying to turn left, and we can't see the cars as they're coming to us. So an unintended benefit of that is safety issues, and it provides a much clearer line of sight for us. Okay, what happens if the bond issue does not pass on May 7th? First thing, we're going to be back on the ballot in November. As I just said, we need to address our buildings, especially Nevin, Coppock, and Broadway. They need to be addressed. They have served this district wonderfully over the years. We've got a lot of great education out of those buildings. Lots of great memories were made. But it's just time for those buildings to be retired. I'm getting close to retiring. I can't wait. Those buildings are probably feeling the same way. It is time for them to be put. They served us well. It's time to move on. So first thing, we're going to be back in November if we don't pass in May. Next bullet point, there are sub-bullet points. We anticipate the bond issue to be larger. Okay, why is that? Why do we think that's going to be larger? First bullet point. It says potential higher construction costs. That word potential probably shouldn't be there. Okay, we're hearing from construction firms that are projecting annual 5.5% increase in construction costs moving forward. Whether it's because of the tariffs, whether it's because they don't have enough specialty trades out there to get the work done, construction costs are going up, and they're being projected to go up at 5.5% on an annual basis. Next one, installation of hardened square footage for a mandated storm shelter will be required by the state for all bond issues passed after September 2019. So this requirement actually came into effect a year and a half or so ago. And as construction companies, design firms, school districts were getting into this, they started saying, wait a minute. We might think this is one of those things that's put in place with great intentions, but the reality of this is this costs a lot of money. A lot of money to do this. So at that point in time, the state put a moratorium in place for 1 year, stating, all right, we'll back off of this, we'll listen, we'll see what's going to happen. And so up until this coming September, any bond issue that passes does not have to have this hardened square footage storm shelter. Now, that does not mean that this building's not going to be built to code. This building is going to be built to code. Code is that it's got to withstand an F1 tornado, 115 mile per hour winds. This new, I don't know if it's a law, if it's an ORC code, requires that part of your building has to be built to withstand an F5 tornado. So basically 200, 225 mile per hour winds. Now, not the whole building. They allot you 5 square feet per student and employee staff in the building. So you're allotted 5 square feet for that space. Has to have a generator attached to it. We're going to have a generator anyways. Has to have potable water being brought in. Has to have restrooms provided to it. Because they're thinking if this happens and the F5 comes through, there's nowhere for you to go. You got to stay here. So the state allots $800,000 in their package to put that in. That's their allowance. They're not giving us that money. That's the allowance. They'll co-fund that amount. Okay. We have heard from construction firms you need to add about $1 million to $1.5 million to that cost. So it's about a $1.8 to $2.3 million cost for the square footage we would need to get to an F5. So as we sit here today, that goes into effect in September. It may not. The legislature, the Building Trades Commission might get them to either waive it, put another year of moratorium, or they might change it. But as of today, in our knowledge base, what we know is that'll be required after September. Potential interest rate increases. That may or may not happen. Back in December, we thought for sure we were going to see 4 increases, maybe 5 increases over the course of the year. The Fed has backed off that a little bit, and I think Mr. Stevens will talk about that a little bit as we get forward. So that may or may not happen. However, those 2 bullet points up there, a 5.5% increase in construction costs, and that extra $1 million to $1.5 million we're going to have to put in to the storm shelter, plus our 65% of that $800,000, we're looking easily at an increase in cost of at least $4 million if we don't pass now in May. We're not saying that to scare. We are not saying that to threaten. We are just trying to make sure everybody's aware. Okay. Our needs aren't going to change. We're still going to need this building. But the state will put more requirements on us as we move forward. I heard of one school district that they passed their bond issue. They said they were going to build the storm shelter. They got into it. Construction management firm came back to them and said, we need another $1.3 million. They didn't have it budgeted. So they had to punt and think, okay, we passed money for this. What we passed isn't going to cover that. So what do we do? So they're making adjustments and they're going to do some storm hardening, but it's not going to be what the state requires. And again, building code says our building has to be constructed to F1 standards. The last bullet point, if we don't pass now in May, the opening of this renovated facility is going to get pushed back by a year. Okay, that's just the fact of it. If we pass in May, it gives us summertime to get our construction manager on site. It gives us time to get our early site package on site that we can go out to bid and start working next early spring. We don't pass till November. It's going to be summertime before we probably get our early site package going. So the longer we're not in a renovated addition facility is the longer time that we're putting money into Broadway and Nevin. Broadway and Nevin give a lot of us heartburn, a lot of concerns as far as the age, the issues that are going on with that building. And we would just feel a lot more comfortable if we knew we were getting out of that facility within the next couple of years. Okay, understanding OFCC and ELPP. Again, we made some mistakes along the way in our wording, in our verbiage, but there was never anything intentional about anything that may have been left out in what we were trying to say. So, the top part of the slide, pre-K-12 Master Facilities Plan, our approved ELPP discrete portion. That second line is new to this slide. The rest of the slide is the same slide we've been showing since January. So, initially we're going to come into LT Ball. We're going to renovate 60% of this building to start with. Enlarge the kitchen so we can service 1,200 kids. Extend the media center so there's enough room for our children as they go to their classes. Add additional related arts classrooms. Add additional multi-handicap special education and preschool classrooms. And a new centralized administrative office. Adding an addition of approximately 94,000 square feet for new K-5 classrooms, an additional gymnasium, and a stage. And we'll show you a picture of that if you haven't seen that yet as well. The plan also includes demolition and abatement of Nevin Coppic, the bus garage, and Broadway. The plan also includes construction of a new bus garage and the tennis courts at the high school, which we showed you a little bit ago, and we'll show you again as well. This, I think, was from our January session as well. Kind of a timeline of how things should happen in this. And as we started hearing some concern that, hey, we're going to tear down this building, we started thinking, whoa, what did we say? Where did we mess up at? So we went back. Some of this was pointed out to us, some of it was not. But we caught some language that made it sound like we were going to bring down the middle school. So we fixed this. If you look on the far right, in red, discrete portion up. That was not on the original slide. Original slide said district completes master plan and OFCC provides funding credit. If I'm a community member that's not been engaged, I'm thinking, wait a minute. They just said they're not tearing down the middle school, but they're saying in 2020 something, you're going to complete their master plan, which means the middle school is coming down. So, the discrete portion is what we are doing right now, if the bond issue passes. We are not going to complete our pre-K-6, 7-12 master plan at that point in time. So we wanted to correct that slide. This slide, no changes to this. Just the timeline on our ELPP program. We were notified by the state end of July that we are eligible for ELPP. 1st of August, our board passed a resolution committing to ELPP, sent notification to the state. We received notification from the state that our state share percentage is now 35%. When we heard that 35%, when we heard that back in July and August, we thought, whoa, boy, this is great. We had never, ever seen those numbers before. Never. Highest at one point was 31%, and then it would bounce back down to 27, 28, 24. We never saw a state share of 35%. And to be honest, that was one of our hesitations with committing to OFCC, was the percentage they wanted to offer us, we didn't feel was high enough to have to go through their procedures, jump through all of their hoops. 35%, we said, sign us up. In January, Ohio Facilities Construction Commission approved our district's master's facilities plan with the ELPP portion. So that has been approved by the state. Again, no corrections on this slide. No corrections on this slide either. This is the district placing a bond issue on the May 7th ballot to renovate portions of LT Ball, new K-5, everything we just went through. And you can read that as well. So no corrections there. No corrections on this slide. So summer 19 through summer 21. So if the community approves the bond issue here in May, work begins in earnest in May. We get a RFP out there for a construction firm. We start getting the design process going, and we start moving so that by the end of summer of 2021, we're moving into these new facilities. One of the things we're very happy with is that as we're building, our students are staying in their classrooms. They're not being put into trailers. They're not going to be in what's called swing space. They'll be in their classrooms that whole time. Saves us about $1 million, $1.5 million on the cost of our project, not having to provide swing space. The renovations that are going to be done to this building will be done throughout the summers so that students are not displaced as the renovations are going on. Last bullet point, if we can fast track the project, and everybody I've talked to have heard us say we're going to fast track this project, everything goes fine, we're going to be in this building, the new addition, in the fall of 2021. Again, we made no changes to this slide. Next slide. You can see the red words that we had left out before. Once our number comes up with the OFCC to be part of the CPAP program, we will address the remainder of, originally said, the master's facilities plan, should have said the discrete portion of the master facilities plan. We will receive credit for 35% of the initial project co-funded expenses. The next slide shows us what's co-fundable and what's not co-fundable. Eligible issues that are co-fundable: building construction costs, furnishings, abatement, demolition of facilities to be abandoned by us. Not our bus garage though, and not our maintenance garage. They don't co-fund that. We pay for all of those abatement costs. It will also co-fund any technology infrastructure and wiring. It will co-fund multi-purpose fields, basically any green space. Any grassy area, they will co-fund. They do not co-fund practice fields, they do not co-fund stadiums, they do not co-fund performance fields. It's grassy space area. They also co-fund all the soft costs, the permits, the bids, insurance, design work, the printing, all that goes on with the project. Non-eligible uses, they won't co-fund board offices, bus compounds, garages, community outreach programs, computer software, equipment or tool sheds, auditoriums or natatoriums, kitchen equipment, sports stadium. So kitchen equipment is an odd one. They'll co-fund the space for us to enlarge the kitchen, which is going to go over there. They're not going to co-fund the equipment that goes in. Kind of odd. But that's their guideline. No changes on that slide. Last slide in this series shows, again, the red portion is what we had left out initially. District completes discrete portion of master plan. So, when our number comes up in CPAP, as I mentioned previously, the state's going to come back. They're going to look at our building costs. They're going to look at how we're filling the building, see that we did what we said we were going to do, and then they are going to give us a credit back. That credit is for approximately $10.1 million. The first thing we have to do when we get that credit is we have to come back into here, into LT Ball. If you remember, I said we're doing 60% of this building. We still have to finish the other 40% of this building up to design manual standards. So we get our credit of $10.1 million. The first thing we're doing is we're coming back into here, bringing this up to design manual standards. Approximately $5 million or so have to come into here. At that point in time, the board looks at any updates to systems at the high school that might be necessary. We don't anticipate any. We're trying to maintain that building to the best of our ability. So we don't anticipate any updates in there, and the state will not make us do any updates in there if the renovate to replace ratio is below 33%. Currently, the renovate to replace ratio for the high school is 5.8%. So doubtful it's going to get up to 33%. So at that point in time, there's about $5 million left in credit for the state. The board has made this commitment that at that point in time, that money, they're going to tell the treasurer, go refund our bond issue. refinance it basically in effect to pay down some of this bond issue, reduce the tax burden on the community, whether it's shave years off the end, shave payment amount, or both. So again, I appreciate the information that came to us, the questions that came to us. People were exactly right. It wasn't clear. We did not do a good job sharing the proper information, or sharing the information properly. None of it was intentional. None of it was done underhandedly. We are just trying to do the best we can to get this information out. And we missed some things, and we own that, and we apologize for that. If that's creating some, ooh, what are they really trying to say? That was never our intention. So the addition and renovations. So existing LT ball is what this is showing, which is this area. I'll step up here to try to get out of the way a little bit. Administrative suite is going to move to one of the classroom quads, 2 principals, 2 guidance counselor offices, second art room, second music room, multi-handicap special education classrooms, enlarged kitchen right here, pre-K classrooms up here, another art room, computer lab, a music room, gymnasium, dining, stage, media center. Excuse me. That media center currently, the reading room of the media center currently ends about right here. And then behind that are office spaces, another computer lab, and storage. We know that's not big enough to service our kids that we're putting in this building, so we're expanding that all the way to that back hallway so that there is enough room for our students. Now, we mentioned stage. Can't really see it here. It might be on the next slide. It is, okay. So the next slide shows the classroom addition over there. Also shows a stage here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a stage at the back side of the current gymnasium. If you've been on our playground before, there's sort of a cutout area in there. Stage will fit in that section. Purpose for that is our elementary music classrooms like to do their programs as an entire grade level, which is approximately 160 to 200 kids, depending on the year. We know this stage right here, well, it gets great use now. You can't put 200 kids up here, and mom and dad aren't going to be able to see their child. So we know that we needed a bigger stage. So we're adding a stage in this project. Classroom addition is a 2-story addition. Envisioning K1 and 2 on the first floor. Got another full-size basketball court here. We have elevator, we have 2 sets of restrooms on the first floor, large stairwell here, storage for PE here, mechanical closet here. We're planning for 9 sections of each grade level. And so that takes me back. Let me go back. I'm trying to go quickly here, but I want to make sure I cover everything. So those 9 sections are not what the state requires. Those 9 sections are Tipp City's values. Those 9 sections are us being able to put 20 to 22 kids in a K class max, 22, 23 kids in the 2 through 5 classes max, and allows us room for growth. We did an enrollment projection from the state. They looked at our enrollment, they looked at current enrollment, they looked at deaths in our town, they looked at live births, they looked at housing starts, potential housing sites, and they projected our enrollment out in 10 years. Our enrollment is shown to grow about 100 students, K through 12, over the next 10 years. So we know there's some growth coming. We know it's not large growth, but we also do not want to ask our community for $35 million, build a facility, and then 8 years from now say, oh geez, we blew it. We need more classroom space. That wouldn't go over well. It wouldn't go over well with me. So we're trying to make sure that we get this covered now. So again, those 9 classrooms are not school design manual standards. Those are Tipp City values and what Tipp City believes in classrooms should look like. In each of these neighborhoods, you also see there's a special education classroom in each neighborhood. There's teachers' workroom, there's title pull-out rooms, there's small group workrooms. So each neighborhood has that exact. Those special education rooms are where the children that might need additional support in whether it's reading, math, or whatever subject might go into those rooms for those additional instructions, and then they go back to their regular classroom. Those aren't a self-contained special education classroom. Those are our standard inclusion model special education that we've been doing for years in Tipp City. So, first floor, K1-2, gymnasium. Second floor has 3, 4, and 5, and I guess we don't have that slide, but it looks just like the K1 and 2. Mirror image top to bottom. Next thing we're going to have in here, we're going to have a secure vestibule. Every new construction facility has it. It's kind of a sad state of our society that we have to have these safety measures, but we have to. So, every entrance into our building will be a secured vestibule entry. They're going to have to be buzzed into the vestibule. From there, they get buzzed into the office. From there, once we deem who they say they are, and they should be in there, they will get buzzed out into the school. So it's kind of a 3-step process, trying to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our children safe. So every entrance into this facility will have a secured vestibule. There you can see the first floor and second floor there. Yes, I had that out of order. K1-2, gymnasium, restroom, stairs. 3, 4, 5, restrooms upstairs as well. This is a bridge walkway that'll get you from one neighborhood to the next. And we'll also be able to overlook the gymnasium as well. So the overview of the site. Talked a lot about the facility itself. Blue is current LT ball. Where we're at today is the blue. The red is what we are proposing to build with passage of our bond issue in May. Stage on the left side, 2-story addition. On the east side, you can see the footprint of Nevin Kopic right here. You can see the bus parking lot right here. You can see the tennis courts right there. You can see when you came in tonight, when we have track going on, when we have baseball going on, when we have softball going on, when we have lacrosse practicing out here, when we have tennis going on, we need more parking. We need more parking. This plan does it. We have about 225 spaces out here on this north side. Working with the city, we know we need about 350 spaces for the size of buildings we're going to have. We figure when we're all said and done, we're going to have close to 500 spaces. It's more than doubling what's out there right now. Will it always be enough? Just depends on how many teams come to our track meets. Sometimes it's an invitational, there's 10 to 12 teams. We know baseball and softball, whether it's reserve or varsity, plays every single night. So it's just a fact of life here at our facility. Still see our playground. We are also planning a smaller playground for our K1 students right next to their classrooms. Fenced in, larger playground. This building is blessed with the acreage behind us, all the green space, lots of room for playground out there. Again, picture of the high school. Transportation building, as we talked about, bus parking, tennis courts. We're envisioning down here, after talking to Mr. Faust and Mr. Vierhoff, that's where they would like to see the tennis courts. We're showing 8 tennis courts. Our current tennis courts are 6, but our current tennis courts have lights. We're not planning on lights for the new tennis courts, so we want to have enough tennis courts that they can get their matches done in the amount of time necessary before the sun goes down. So the tentative schedule. Bond issue a month from today. If it passes, design work begins in earnest. Early next spring, as I said, site construction starts. Summer 2021, we're moving in. Late summer, real late summer. Getting enough time to finish all of this. Fall of 21, the abatement and demo of Nevin Kopic Bus Garage and Broadway begins. End of 2021, we're done. It is a fast timeline, but it's a doable timeline, and we talked to numerous construction firms that understand it's a tight timeline, but with what we are building, we're not building anything special. We're building classrooms. We're not building a north one where you walk in the north one, you got this huge open expanse, this huge bridge that takes you from one side of the building to the other, some huge Italian type seating area, some huge performance stage. We're not building that. We're constructing what we need for our district, which is new classroom space. Again, trying to be fiscally responsible and only asking for what we need as a district. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Stevens.
Hey Gary, just open it up for anybody might have questions
Sure.
from what you just
Right now we're into this. I'm trying to keep going here. It's a beautiful evening. Questions?
Gary, is there going to be an elevator?
There will be an elevator, yes, sir.
Okay.
That is code, so it will be an elevator in
What
there.
happens when the power goes out and handicapped kids have?
There will be a generator connected to that building. The elevator will be connected to the generator.
We also have sleds. It's a purchase through our special education department that it's a form of like a sled that if you really are in a very difficult situation, you're able to put our students on that, and then that helps them get down as safely as possible.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm not sure which one I-
Mr. I have several questions.
Okay.
If I can.
Sure. I'll do my best to answer them.
First of all, did the district contract with an education planner?
To be contract with an education.
Correct.
No, we work with OFCC as our planner.
And they do recommend contracting with an education planner to go over a lot of these finer details. I'm a big fan of OFCC. I've been in some of their buildings. They do this day in and day out. They do it for schools, correctional facilities, campuses, on college.
Yep, all the public facilities in our state.
Medicine is
Yes.
one of their, is a discrete project.
Yep.
They're good. In my opinion, they provide great oversight for state dollars because their goal is if you're gonna build it right and into the future.
Yep,
Save everybody time and money. I'm for that.
agreed.
I think an educational planner would be very wise in this sense. I believe that, you know, we can get penny wise and pound foolish because you very clearly stated this is not something the district does often.
Very short.
We underbuilt the gymnasium at the high school, we underbuilt the dining room at the high school, and we overbuilt the Center for Performing Arts. That's fine, it's done and over with, but it is what it is. Let's not repeat mistakes in a beautiful project like this. First point, I think
Okay.
it's worthwhile to contact an educational planner, and that educational planner, by the way, is very big on bringing in administrators, teachers, as a part of the thought process and planning. I believe that the people that are going to be working in those buildings are the ones who have some of the best cost-effective, innovative ideas for traffic flow and what their particular needs are going to be.
And I agree completely with that. And so anything you've seen up here are conceptual drawings. There's no blueprints. We know that once it passes, that there's going to be a lot of time spent with the teachers in those classrooms, talking with them, listening to them, trying to figure out what their needs are so that we can provide what they need in their classrooms.
Yes, but I think that where we're differing, Mr. Pfister, is I say bring them in now.
And they have been involved.
Before you start rolling out dollars and cents and schematics to the public. That's just my thought.
And we have had a program requirement committee that has been made up of representatives from Devon, Broadway, and LT.
Okay.
We have met, we have discussed needs, future needs, what they think, and they have been informed that they will be coming back in and meeting with us throughout this entire process. We value, they're in the front lines. They do it every day. And we value that, and we're going to make sure we listen to that
On the front end.
on all ends.
Thank you. Secondly, you mentioned that OFCC has a requirement of 57 classrooms. And that number is predicated on PK through 6.
Correct.
But Tipp values is 65 classrooms predicated on PK through 5.
Correct.
So you are 8 classrooms over PK through 6.
Correct. If we went with the state values on a pre-K through 6 and put pre-K 6 into this building,
Yes.
there would be more than 25 students in every single classroom.
Well, I'm probably going to get booed, but I grew up in the 60s, and I had 32 in my 6th grade class. I know things have changed. They paddled back then, by the way.
I got one myself. I've been there.
That's an important detail. Principals were able to paddle. That's how you kept them in line.
Yep.
But we had 32 kids in our class, and I think I turned out pretty good. And by the way, I didn't even have kindergarten. I started 1st grade. It just wasn't the thing in the
Certainly.
education model.
Certainly.
So I don't get too freaked out when I hear about 25 kids in a class.
Sure.
And I think we all know that even today, if you go through any of your buildings, you may have classrooms with 25.
I don't disagree.
Thank you. Thirdly, the reason it matters, in my opinion, as a taxpayer and stakeholder, that this district did not do this right by promoting this as a PK5 project was because that's an enrollment issue. I get that. But we're not paying tax dollars on enrollment. We're paying tax dollars on square footage, brick and mortar costs. And we are paying for that 6th grade square footage, which, by the way, just the fact that we have to do this on paper with the OFCC, this is from the master plan, 6th grade square footage is 129.33 per student.
Correct.
If you multiply that by 217 6th grade students in the eyes of the OFCC, we have to come up with an additional 28,000 square feet.
Correct.
We paid for that 28,000 square feet. That just doesn't fall out of the sky. When we go to vote, whether we're enrolling PK through 5 or whether we enroll PK through 6, we are going to pay for that 28,000 extra square feet, quote, for 6th grades.
You don't know, it will be co-funded.
And that's why I feel it was very misleading and inappropriate and, quite frankly, inexcusable to promote this as a PK5 project.
Okay.
If
Hear
you
you.
want to clarify it as an enrollment PK, I get that. I'm not, that's not my bag, that's not my issue. But when we write a check for our property taxes we earn, it doesn't matter if it's PK through 2, PK through 5, or PK through 6. We have to pay for the construction of the project. And I think that in a house of education where you're supposed to deliver information, impart information, extract information, and share information, this was not as confusing as everybody says it is. I don't think it's confusing at all. And I've only been doing this for like the past 4 weeks. I think the district master plan should have been rolled out from the get-go. It was not. I exposed that on Facebook. There is an intersectionality between the district master plan and the ELPP program that cannot be avoided if we want that 35% credit. I think people can understand that. And by the way, the 35% credit is great because I remember John Cronauer back in 2011, it was like 25%.
Exactly.
So, on that note, I want to say, if we defer until November because we need more information, I don't know that that's such a bad thing. We always tend to think that if we don't act now, we're going to lose big opportunities. Well, if we had acted back in 2011, albeit construction costs were less, we would have only gotten 25%. Now we have a chance for 35%. We don't have a crystal ball. Maybe things will go up, maybe things will go down.
We are locked in at 35% until February
I
2020.
believe,
So
yes,
the
that's-
amount of money that we're going to get back at 10.9.
So I don't get real nervous
It's gonna be
about
the
if we
same
do
in-
it now or if we do it in November. Sometimes things work out to your advantage that you didn't anticipate.
Sometimes.
My goal is I want new schools. Broadway and Nevin Coppic, I don't think that's an argument anymore. Maybe it is for some. I just don't
Sure.
hear it much.
I hear you.
But if we're going to do something, do it right from the beginning. Do it right from the beginning. And if we have to slow the process down and start communicating better, then I'm all for it. That master plan should have been rolled out from the get-go because it intersects the ELPP program. You cannot get one without the other.
We understand that.
Okay. Then the PK5 is not a PK5 when it comes to writing a check. It's a PK6 because we have to pay for that additional 28,000 square feet, whether we got 6th graders there or not.
Which is being co-funded, which allows us to meet our Tipp City values of the smaller classrooms. I understand that, not that important to you. I understand that, and I
Mr. Fisher,
appreciate
and
that.
I'm not picking on you, because I thought you were a great principal. I
thought we had a great relationship.
I
but
think
you're trying
maybe
to
you know
look
where
for-
I'm coming from specifically.
I do.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you. But what I'm saying, Tipp City values is also accountability and transparency, and it's not something we should hear every 4 years when somebody runs for a board of elections. It's something we should hear every single day. Now, traffic study.
Yes.
Have we done one?
We are working on that. We've had several long conversations with them. We have contracted with the Finders Group to do a traffic study. It is not complete as we stand
And do
here
you have an
today.
anticipation date for that?
We're hoping within the next week.
Okay. Numbers. The master plan projected through future, think, in 2028, which
Correct.
is 10 years from now,
Correct.
predicts PK through 6 as 1,415 students.
That is correct.
Okay. Why do we have 1,250? Because we're only,
Because 1,250 are the pre-K through 5 students that will be in this building that we will be serving within. This building will be able to serve 1,415 by the
should we need
state
to go there
standards.
sometime in the future? Okay.
If we would need to. And we have the middle school now, so we don't need to go there.
Okay. Final thought, storm shelters. I lost a friend. Excuse me, I didn't lose a friend. I have a friend who lost his family and his home in Xenia. And that was in the 70s, I believe. And that big tornado went through and then they got hit again.
Right.
We talk about safety. Well, if we're going to have 1,200 kids in a building and all the teachers and the staff, I personally would rather pay a little bit more to have some assurance for their safety.
Sure.
And I also think it's a community building that will serve the public well in the future. Should we have some disastrous event occur right off the 75 or some storm event for the elderly, whatever, that get displaced from their homes or can make it here in time because we have an early enough warning that an F5 is coming from West Milton. I'm not opposed to that extra money in the interest of Tipp City values and safety.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is the from the OSDM on the education planner. I'll be happy to share it with you.
I have. I'm sure I do somewhere.
You've already clarified about master plan must be completed 3 to 7 years, which was incorrect on
Is
your
it
original
correct?
slide.
Yep. We own
Okay.
that.
I wish you well, Mr.
Thank
Pfister.
you.
I will
Appreciate your
support the
comments.
schools when I believe that the taxpayers have complete and full information because I believe we deserve it and I believe we can handle it.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Okay, we're going to keep this moving. We got a few more slides to go through yet, and then we'll be around to answer questions as much as we can as we go. So I'm sure there's other questions. But we have a lot of information we want to show. Beautiful evening. So I'm going to turn over to Mr. Stevens and let him talk about the bond issue.
All right, thanks, Gary. All right, hopefully I can finish this up and not keep us here too much longer. And I went backward. All right, so just one thing we tried to compare what it would cost to just renovate the buildings that we currently have versus doing the project that we're talking about doing. And so on the left side, you're renovating Broadway, you're renovating Nevin, you're renovating LT Ball. And so Broadway and Nevin, the state has already said those buildings are too old, we're not going to help co-fund anything there. So there's no state funding to help renovate Broadway and Nevin. For the renovation of LT, there could be some co-funding in there, and then you have your modular classroom rental. So the total cost to the taxpayer we anticipate or estimate to be about $37.3 million. The project we're looking to do has a current bond issue of $35.75 million, an OFCC commitment to give us $10 million of that project cost, and then once we get that $10 million, Gary already stated that we would have to go back into LT Ball and finish the other 40% that we didn't do originally. So that's going to cost about $5 million or so. And then there might be some money if the Broadway land or the Broadway property is sold. We're not sure what's going to happen there yet. That's still out there. But the total cost of the taxpayers on that project, after we get our $5 million, after our $10 million credit, do the rest of the LT ball, pay down the bond, is about $30.8 million. If you remember back in March of 2016 when we tried to do a pre-K3 building on the Broadway site, that anticipated cost was $29.9 million. That was a pre-K3 project. This is a pre-K5 project for now a little bit more, just a little bit more. So that's just a small breakdown. Let's see. And now we have the bond issue. So on the May 7th ballot, we have a bond issue for a total of $35.75 million, 27-year length, 5.4 mils is what the bond language, or the ballot language will say, 5.4 mils. I'm going to show you another slide. It's going to show you it's not quite 5.4 mils, and I'll tell you why. This right now is a representation in a bar graph form of our debt payments. The darker red is the current debt still outstanding on our high school building. That building was passed, or the bond was passed back in, I want to say, what was that, 2000, 2001? 2001. Okay, so originally that bond was 27 years. We're scheduled to end in December of 2027. Through refinancing and getting better interest rates, we were able to shorten the length of that debt to end December of 2024. So those 6 bars, and you can't see the number, but at the bottom there, it shows 2024. High school debt is paid off in 2024. If we pass this new bond issue in May, we are going to structure and finance our debt, and I've confirmed this with the finance director. Gosh, I'm tripping over my words. With our financial advisor, who will issue these the debt for us, we will structure the payments. So for the first 5 years, we're paying interest. Rather than paying 5.4 mils for those first 5 years, we will only have to pay 3.87 estimated. If interest rates don't go up, we could be paying less. And so rather than paying 3.89 mils on the high school debt and 5.4 mils, we're paying 3.89 and 3.87. Once the high school debt is paid off, we will then go to the 5.4 mils for the remainder of the life of the elementary building. Now the good news is we've talked about receiving the state funding. We'll have about $5 million where we can pay down the debt. So probably won't see 5.4 mils at all or for very long, depending on how long it takes for the state to give us our money. So that's one of the good things that we have for issuing this debt for the elementary building. Any questions on this bar graph right here so far? Okay. I think it's really easy to see it in picture form. If I tried explaining it without a picture, you'd be like me, lost. Tax cost in dollars. For a home market value, there's a monthly cost for the first 5 years. This is the 3.87 mils, $11.29 a month. If you're the homeowner over 65 and you've got that homestead reduction, $8.47 a month for the first 5 years. For the rest of the life of the debt, 22 years, $15.75, and then $11.81. If you go online to our website, there is information on how to go to the county auditor's website and calculate what your payment will be. And if you need help with that, give me a call. I'm more than happy to walk you through that. Now this is a great chart right here. This is an affordability and state report card comparison of surrounding school districts. So all the school districts in Miami County are on this chart, along with some other districts that are in our area. This shows the annual taxes that an average homeowner in Tipp City would pay if they moved their home to these different school districts. And so we've got a home value average $164,500 with an earned taxable income of $84,027. Tipp City is currently the lowest priced cost per year in taxes to live compared to the other districts in Miami County and a few other schools. If this bond were to pass, we move up to number 4. But we do know that Troy is looking to pass their own bond issue so they could move ahead of us or behind us. And we also know in 5 years, the high school debt's coming off. So we'll move back to the left. The other thing to note is that these letter grades here are the state report card grades that the school districts receive from the Ohio Department of Education. There are no A's in Miami County. On this list, get rid of that one there. There's only 4 B's. Tipp City, Newton, Miami East, and North County. We are a good bang for your buck, Tipp City Schools. Any other questions? Sorry, I went through that a little quick. Yes, sir.
When they issue these, I'm not speaking from an investor standpoint.
Sure.
When they issue these bonds, are they tax-free, different kind of like municipal bonds? or
They
how
should
is
be,
it?
yes, and local community members can purchase those bonds. I have been contacted already by Edward Jones, asked if we'd be able to sell these through them. The answer is yes, and I believe they get first crack at them. Yes, ma'am.
Who is Chris Colato?
Chris Colato.
It's on your document from the ELPP program.
Somebody from OFCC,
Resource International.
Resource International.
Okay, it's dated December 12, 2018, and the mill is 5.3. How did we go from 5.3 to
The county auditors confirmed it's 5.4. It's a county auditor number. They have to certify that.
But why was this 5.3?
That could be,
It was his guess with the information he had on planning at that time.
yeah. So one of the requirements we had to file with the county auditor's office, they had to certify that millage amount. So the county auditor is the final say on that millage amount. So, Mike, you said that was most likely an estimate?
Yeah, he's with Resource International, which is the consultant that the OSFC uses to help the discrete portion.
Okay.
And that was when we were wrestling through what the scope of the discrete portion was.
Okay.
So it's not anything from the ADR.
Do you mind me asking at this point, Dave? It has, at that time in December 12, 2018, the total dollar amount, including the locally funded issue, with the tennis courts and the bus garage, and $34,099,000, and we're at 35.7. I was just wondering, that's like a 1.6.
We'd have to see the numbers that they use in that because there are some other items. I don't think what you're seeing there for the
It's in your ELPP
LFI.
agreement. It came right out of your ELPP agreement.
Anybody?
Yeah, we'll look at it after the meeting. and see
Yeah.
what-
Yeah, the number, the 35 does match something that we have. So we just have to look into it and investigate the difference. Anybody else?
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, Doc.
First of all, I'd like to thank you. Dave come around and asked me if I had any questions to ask you. So I appreciate that, Dave.
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm hearing 2 different things. My time is valuable. This is my 5th meeting I've come to, and I keep hearing different things each meeting I come to. I went to the one in January, and Greta said to sign up for a committee if you're interested in working on the Broadway school and what to do with it. There was 4 of us that signed up. Myself and one other one I checked with have heard nothing, but last month, you stood up there and said to all of us that there's a Broadway committee working on what we're going to do with Broadway. So that's 2 different things that we're getting from you. What is? Who's on the committee? I thought we were doing transparency.
I'll defer to Greta on that. It's her committee.
And I can address that, Don. We've been meeting on a monthly basis at Broadway, and it is the Broadway neighborhood There's been hand flyers that's been put out, but we've also had it in Quick News, and we've had it in multiple places. I thought Mrs. Prawl had put out one, because as we received email addresses, there was something sent out. I did not realize that she'd not been directly contacted, but we have put it out.
Why did
multiple
I
ways.
sign a sheet, just like tonight, why do we sign a sheet? I signed it. Why didn't I get contacted if we're deciding, in the fine print up there, it said a committee deciding what we're gonna do with Broadway. To me, it's already decided, you're gonna bulldoze it. No reason, purpose in it at all, you're gonna bulldoze it. So, these changes up here, you know, my phone, previous school board members that's been on the school board in Tipp City, I got a phone call right before I came to the meeting tonight. And he's wondering why figures are changing. And what I'm asking, and they're asking me, is what am I gonna do? In 2016, we defeated the Broadway thing because there was tearing it down. You keep saying Tipp City values. Tipp City values, the reason Tipp City is known for what it is historical buildings. So you're tearing down Broadway and Central, which is Central is over 100 years old, which is Tipp City values. So I don't understand. I signed the sheet. I'm not notified. I don't think he'll mind mentioning the name Bob Keppel. I saw him the other day. He said he wasn't notified. He signed the same sheet I signed. So it's like you're taking a select in crowd. I'm the out crowd, I know that. But I lived here for 69 years, and I paid taxes almost 12,000. That's public information at the courthouse. So you're saying the auditor certifies things. I say I pay $12,000 and the school gets 85% of that. Why am not I contacted as what to do with the property the taxpayers already own? I'm asking a question.
Well, first I'll say that there was no intention of not contacting you, Don. I'm sorry that didn't happen after you
Why
came
did
to
I
the
sign
first
the
session.
sheet? I mean, I don't
The
understand.
second thing, I will say information has been out there, and I would also say, and I'll take responsibility that you were not contacted. I was unaware that you were not contacted or that you were unaware of the other meetings, but I would have also asked for you to reach out. Is anything happening? Because we started them in January, and now we're in almost May. We're in April, and we just had our last our meeting here in April. Just about, was it this week or the week before? So what I will say is that there was a very strong consensus with that group that one of the things they did not want was looking out their doorways and their windows and seeing deteriorating buildings that would become an eyesore or even hazards. That the need for it to be kept up when the school stepped away was important to them.
Well,
And
I
so-
came to the meeting in December and offered, contingent on financing, that I would buy the Broadway block, and then quoted in the paper for our journalist that's here, you quoted saying we've had no interest in it. So there's a public meeting, I make it known that I'm interested, and then you're saying in the public paper there's no interest in the public Broadway of someone purchasing it. So what do you say about that? See, one on one end, the other end, you get different information. You know, and I guess from here, it's just like I see. 3 years ago, I came to the board meeting when the Rittenhouse's sad situation hung themselves, and I offered to pray. That's Tipp City values, and I was told no. Tonight, I would say pray for Jerry Butcher's wife. She just had her stroke. She was going to be at this meeting. She can't swallow. She can't speak. It's been that way for 10 days. What he tells me, it's not going to pass, and it's a bunch of bullshit that they give. That's not my language. I don't use that kind of language. But I'm tired of being a resident for 69 years, and then you hear all these separate things. You're not contacted when you put your address, your phone number, and your name down on these lists. It's like fake news, Mr. Trump stuff. You know, I don't understand it. Can you help me?
I think I've answered it. There was no intention of you not being informed about the other meetings. All of the Broadway community, if you would have talked to any of the neighborhood, they had actually hand flyers provided to them. And I think there was a very strong effort, to my understanding, that after the first meeting with the ones that we did have, that an email went out. And I will look at that, Mr. Watson, to see if you were on that email, and if you weren't, I'll...
I'm in the U.S. postal address that goes through the post office.
I see, I see. Okay.
Or internet
Uh,
access.
What
But
I
you want
would,
us all to be there to vote yes on May 7th.
what I would
So
like
what do
to...
I do with the signs I've already painted up that say vote no, that says this stuff that you're putting out due tonight, my signs are already made. So I'm going to put out information that I had in writing. You gave us flyers, all the other means, but tonight you didn't give us flyers because it may change next time.
They're all on the website, and things...
I don't have a computer, so I'm not on the website.
Okay. All right, but we do have a library, a public library that has access to that. But we do also, we provide handouts when we go many places. Tonight, we do not have a handout. What I'd like to do right now is actually step up and talk about learning from our voting from March of 2016.
Are you saying my time's up?
Well, I'm saying it is just minutes before 8 o'clock.
Well,
Minutes before 8 o'clock, and I do want to finish, Don. We will, several of us will linger afterwards, and you may talk further, and Mr. Watson, I will take an appointment with you if you'd like to come to
I
our
don't
office.
have time. My time is valuable. I come tonight and 4 other meetings.
Okay.
I want my questions answered now.
So,
You
we'll...
want to call 911 again, that's all right. I'm not going to shut up because
All right.
they
Well,
come
I'm going
over
to
here
move
and
forward
said
right
my
now is what I'm going to do. And I want to talk a little
He
bit
said my
about...
questions he would answer.
I tried my best to answer it, and I just know it's not to your satisfaction. So what I would like to say is that in March of 2016, we were on a bond issue, and that was for a pre-K3. And it was on the Broadway site, and there was a lot of thought and work that went into that. And once again, we knew that Broadway and Devon were both growing older, and that we had a need for building and facilities. But what we did hear from you, because as a community that did fail very strongly for our community, and I will say that our community is very, very supportive of our schools in many ways, and with our students, and we greatly appreciate that. One of the things that was indicated was that truly that was a pre-K3 plan, and what about grades 4 through 8? Because we knew that there were needs at those levels as well. And we were referring to our pre-K3 plan as phase 1, but we really did not have detailed information. It was very broad information that there would be a phase 2 for grades 4 through 8. This time now, we feel that with our pre-K5 that is on the ballot, that grades 6 through 8 are being attended to, and that's through that renovation and the work that has occurred at our middle school. And once again, that's been done through our permanent improvement dollars and not additional levy dollars. Another piece was that the last issue was 37 years. And 37 years was a piece of feedback that we received that our community felt that that was too long of a bond issue, and that they, as a community, really did not want to be having the next generation to inherit something that they had chosen to do. And so this time we've moved with a 27-year. We're in hopes, much like our high school bond, that we're able, as time goes by, to refinance and actually reduce the number of years. And so it is a 27 years versus 37 years from our prior one. And then another area is that the district was not at that time utilizing the OFCC, and that's actually with the co-funding of the project. Our percentage was lower at that time, I believe near the 21%, and this time now we have been able to lock in the 35%. We are excited about that because that is the highest that we have seen as a district, and it's a very positive opportunity. But even at the lower percentage, we were hearing from the community that any savings that would be available to us, that they, as a community, would really like for us to dig deeper, search more, and see if that was a possible fit for us because that would be a savings that could be passed on to our community. One that's not up here that, as you hear these presentations and as you work through compiling them, there's additional things that you learn and think of, and that's why sometimes when we say information changes is because we're constantly thinking about it and looking for answers. And one of the pieces that's not on this slide that was an aha moment as Mr. Pfister was talking was the aspect that our community also had some concerns about our students being in swing space or trailers. And in this particular plan, we do not have that. We're able to have our students continue to be housed in their regular buildings while the construction is occurring, and that we do not have that expense. So that is an improvement over our last time. And then of course the high school at that time, and still now, that we were still collecting bond millage on the high school. At this time, we realize that. We also know that it will be 5 years will be what is remaining, and that we've been able to do the wraparound. So we do understand that there is, in a sense, the bond issue dollars that would be with our pre-K through 5. That would be the one that's on in May, but also then finishing up for the high school. And that's where the wraparound is helpful, where the first 5 years is actually the interest only that's being paid on the new bond. And then finally, that the plan didn't include preserving any of the existing buildings K through 5. And I know with a number of our community members, and I hear strongly from Mr. Watson that this is something that he greatly values as far as preserving buildings. But what I can say is that we are making a very strong effort to preserve this building, LT Ball, that still has a lot of life in it, as well as updating it, renovating it so that it will serve in the future, and then connecting it with the new addition. That our middle school, that with the improvements that have occurred over this past summer and that we continue to work on, that there is a great deal of renovation and preservation of that building, and it's going to serve us for more than 30 years beyond this time right now, just with those new additions and renovations. And then finally, our high school, as we were hearing right now, it is in very good shape. We continue to keep it maintained, and from the viewpoint from OFCC, it's, as Mr. Pfister would say, 5% that would be, it's a level, help me with, what's the term for that?
Construction escalation.
Construction escalation. So you can tell I'm not too familiar with that term, but I do know that 5% is a low percentage. That means that it is very sound, and that means 95% is in good shape. And so it's not that it just means that it is starting to age. And it is now, as we look at 2001 is when it began. It opened in 2004, and we're at 2019. So unbelievably, we're more than 10 years old at the high school, and it's still in very good shape, and we do take very good care of it. Information, I will say that we have strived very hard, and I give a lot of credit to this full team. Mr. Pfister is very well informed, and Mr. Stevens, he knows the financial aspect, but also Mr. Sagona and Mrs. Robbins, with all the communication, we have been striving to keep our website updated. And so there is this, what I call the black box that talks about Tipp City Schools, and it will say pre-K-5, and it says and addition. If you click on that, there'll be a menu that pops up to the left-hand side, and it has our community engagements that have been videotaped that's available for you, as well as our slideshows and other handouts. So I think you'll find that very informative. And there's information, and that is just our basic number there at the board office, 937-667-8444. And we are there, and I know Mr. Pfister, myself, Mr. Stevens, we would be very willing to sit down with appointments for anyone that would like to talk one-on-one or one-on small group. I want to thank you all for coming this evening, and I know that if some of you would like to linger a bit and talk further one-on-one, we'd be glad to do that. It is 8:07, and I appreciate you giving your time on this lovely spring evening, and I appreciate your engagement and your willingness to remain informed. Thank you.